Hi, everybody. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. I want to thank you for joining us. And I want to thank you for having a microphone, Frank. I think it works. Hold on. Testing 1, 2, 3. Maybe it doesn't work, but oh well. Them's the breaks. All right. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. This is Candid Frank Live Leaf Talk. Well, this is going to be the last time we need to do. I guess I'll explain it this way very simply. Maple Leaf Talk was talking about the Maple Leafs during the Maple Leaf regular season, the playoffs, and then once they ended up gone, Aaron and I wanted to talk about other sports, and so we agreed on doing something that was Canadian centric, and it hung on past the Leafs start of the season for one very important reason. That is the Blue Jays and everything that they accomplished and the excitement that they generated, not just for everyone in Toronto or every one of their fans, even people who weren't fans of the team became fans of the team. And many of them that weren't fans in Toronto did, but as well as them, all the people outside of Toronto that were in Canada that thought it was a great thing that the Blue Jays were doing what they were doing. And we even had some Americans that were pulling for the Blue Jays as well. And the main reason why they were pulling for the Blue Jays, folks, and this is the part that the victory by the Los Angeles Dodgers is going to have an effect on whether the league goes on strike. The reason that is, folks, is simply because when you defer $1 billion worth of contract, defer the whole thing so that you don't have to pay it now, you don't get punished by the league, which is normally the case. And the league has allowed them to do it. And the league has created a situation, folks, and this is something for Blue Jay fans that they experienced firsthand. The Dodgers have sort of almost a farm system that is the Japanese baseball. Stop right there. Full stop. Japanese baseball, their best players are going through the Dodgers. And Aaron, there are so many things I just said that are unfair, and the rest of the league is going to take note, and the rest of the players who don't have a chance to win, because if they're not a Dodger, they're not going to win, they're not going to win the World Series. And so that's my rant. What would you like to supplement my rant with?
Well, based on the fact that they have actually taken advantage of a massive loophole in the collective bargaining agreement to stock a team the way that they have by deferring so much of this certain player's salary, means that they can load up. You're getting closer to seeing super teams akin to what's going on in the National Basketball Association, where teams will stockpile high-end talent. There is no salary cap per se. There's a luxury tax, but even then, it amounts to little more than a light tickle of the wrist with a ribbon.
Yeah, well, if you can afford to pay a guy, and then a percentage of that you have to add to it, it becomes a part of the cost of doing business.
Yep. And at the end of the day, basically, as confident as the Blue Jays may have been feeling going into this, and as cocky as we managed to get, at the end of the day on Saturday, Game 7, after the stroke of midnight, this Cinderella team unfortunately turned back into a pumpkin. And the fact of the matter is we didn't quite have the horses to get where we needed to go. Huge ups to Bichette for managing to chase Shohei Ohtani with that 3-run, 442-foot shot. That was absolutely fantastic. The problem at the end of the day is that the Achilles heel for the Dodgers, their pitching, their bullpen in particular, turned out to be not so much of an Achilles heel
when you can turn your starters to the bullpen,
Well, and the Jays did that too. The unfortunate thing is, in this particular instance, it just seemed like uh, the Jays starters had to get warmed up in a game situation as opposed to being fully warmed in the bullpen and coming out firing. The fact that Snell managed to send down 3 batters in a row, but unfortunately, Savage allowed one. He allowed that shot to Muncy, which was really a backbreaker when we just had one a 1-run lead at that point. It's Bieber fell behind against Smith. Rojas got lucky 2 innings earlier. All of these things added up at the end of the day.
Please keep that in mind. This was not, and to feel that the reliever took all the responsibility for allowing the 1 run that they ended up losing by.
No.
Here's what I'm going to say. Well, we look at what the Jays were, and we look at what the LA Dodgers were before they met, even before the playoffs started. The LA Dodgers were a team built for the World Series. There was no question that. It's common knowledge. As the playoffs went on, it became clear that the Blue Jays, when they entered into this series with the Dodgers, especially after the first 2 games, they were living the life of a Bible story. And the Bible story I'll refer to is the giant and the slingshot story. Well, as it turns out, the slingshot wasn't strong enough to beat Goliath. It just wasn't possible. So the Jays lost to a team that was acknowledged as far superior to any other team in Major League Baseball. And the fact that the deferred payments and all that money that they were paying players that they didn't have to pay for or play with, against other teams, the fact is there was not a level playing ground. It was, in fact, a staircase, a stairway to heaven. And the Dodgers were able to go up quite a few steps above a level playing ground. And it just turned out that they won by the skin of their teeth. And to the defense of the Blue Jays and the appreciation of their fans and the appreciation of anyone who watched the games, as I did, it was multiple paper cuts that eventually took them away from winning a World Series. It wasn't just the last reliever allowing a run. It was other pitchers, like you mentioned, Savage, and also other players that made mistakes, base running, not being the perfect defense. And most of all, the last person I'm going to criticize is a pitcher when you leave 14 gall darn base runners on base without bringing any of them home. And Aaron, just one of those players that were on base that weren't brought home was a victory for the Blue Jays, not only that night, but the night before, where the same thing happened again. So no one Blue Jay is responsible for this loss. And anybody who doesn't say to that Blue Jay who tries taking responsibility for himself, being accountable, and doesn't wrap their arms around him and say, dude, it wasn't just you. This wasn't just one of those times when people say, well, we win as a team, we lose as a team. No, they lost as a team. There was no one individual you can point at and say, you did this. Nope, it was you did this.
Well, when the Jays were, you're not going to believe this because this is a crazy statistic. The Jays went 3 for 17 with runners in scoring position in Game 7 and stranded 14.
Yes.
In the October 31st game, pretty much the same story. They stranded so many people, and they had the opportunity to bring it all home. But again, despite the way that the ball stuck at the bottom of the fence, which according to Rogers Center's ground rules is a ground rule double. If the ball gets wedged underneath the bottom or in one of the top portions of the padding, even though Fox News spent a good solid 15 to 20 minutes out there trying to get a ball to wedge itself in the same position. It's one of those things where there is an element of luck. And
there was a
unfortunately,
ton of element of luck. It's a game. A friend of mine, a producer at Rogers, when I used to work for Rogers and do sports for them, play-by-play and other hosting and stuff. He said it's a game of millimeters, Aaron. It's a game. That series was determined by a series of millimeters. They weren't even inches, because a millimeter would have made the difference of that ball not getting stuck. I mean, the perfection of the way that ball was hit, the perfection about how a base runner decides to slide instead of run through home plate, all those mistakes that the Jays did and the bad luck the Jays had worked out into being why the Jays lost. It was not one individual, and I'll keep saying it till the cows come home. Nobody's going to hang this on any individual pitcher, batter, manager, coach, anybody.
No, there's no way to hang this on one person.
At least a dozen players could have changed the outcome. At least a dozen, Aaron. Any one of a dozen players could have done something just a tad. Yasevich doesn't give up a home run. Barger doesn't lean too far off the base. Well, you know what? I can go on and on and on. I think people understand. My point is that they really did, in this case, lose as a team. No one should think anything otherwise.
No, and in the Immortal Woods of Trey Parker, it's a team sport, and it took everybody to lose that one.
And because any one of them could have changed the outcome. Any one player. There were 14 batters on base that didn't get brought home in the last game. We're not, because they could have won it the night before. You know, the streak of bad luck and inability to hit the ball or pitch, anyway. Here's the thing. They're the American League champions. Nobody's going to take that away from them. They didn't win a World Series, but they gave us a great ride. It was thrilling. I sat in a bar every night watching a bar full of people where it isn't full. So there are a lot of businesses that owe a debt of gratitude to the Toronto Blue Jays. A lot of people who found an excuse to get together and be excited. Some people selling it a little far for the elbows up crowd. The elbows up crowd tried saying, well, we finally got Canada together. I think that's a little bit of an oversale. There were a lot of Canadians in Canada that loved the fact that we had a shot at beating an American team. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a wonderful experience and a fateful end to what could have been otherwise.
No, for sure. And from here, there's next year to look forward to, and the fact that we still have a lot of guys under contract. Some people will be staying, some people will be going, and that's the way things work in professional sports. But we do have a chance to try to run it back.
You know what else works? You know what else works in professional sports? The viewers. There are the viewers that watch from in the case of baseball, from training camp, right?
Yep.
And then there are the viewers that watch all year. And then there are the viewers that don't start watching till the playoffs. And that's true for many sports. You and I both know people that don't watch the National Hockey League except when the playoffs come. There are people like that. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. And all I can say is it was fun watching the games. Unfortunately, due to illness and other unfortunate circumstances, we couldn't broadcast on a regular basis that we both wanted to. And for our part, we apologize for that as well. So at the end of the day, it was fun following this. Was it disappointing that they lost? Well, the good news is, as Toronto sports fans, losing game sevens is not something that, we're not accustomed to. In fact, everybody was sitting there going, oh, this is going to be another kind of Leaf collapse, right? Is that what's going to happen? Oh, no,
it's almost comforting.
It almost
is. In its familiarity, it's almost comforting.
It kind of lessens the blow with what happened with the Leafs. Oh, okay, so this is normal. So anyway, enough about the Blue Jays. Thank you for the excitement. I'm disappointed for the loss. I'm happy for the people who felt that this brought Canada together. I think that's an exaggeration, but I'm happy that people feel that way, Aaron, because there's nothing we like more, because of what's behind me and because of the whole point of doing this segment and changing it to this. That's the definition of why we did it.
100%.
Celebrating all of Canadian sport, all of Canadian teams, and American teams that have Canadians on them. We're here to celebrate the wonder that is the Canadian athlete and the Canadian fans. So let's move on to another Canadian team, the Raptors. They defeated the Grizzlies. Boy, they needed a victory.
They genuinely did. Now, they did actually manage to pull out the win, 117-104 over Memphis. This is actually their first 2-game win streak of the season. This is the first time they put together back-to-back wins. Barnes has been making shots from distance. That's the good news, because it opens up the floor for the likes of Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett to attack from the lanes that creates. Barnes is currently in his 5th NBA season, and this is a rather interesting statistic. Skipping to the next story that we've got there, he's set a franchise record on Sunday against the Memphis Grizzlies. He put up 19 points with 12 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 blocks. This is the 3rd game of Barnes's career with at least 15 points, at least 10 rebounds, and at least 5 assists and 5 blocks. No one in Raptors history has ever had 3 such games before. And this was really important because, this helped improve the Raptors record to 3-4. And they're actually kind of hoping at this point it will start a little surge for them. They'd also beat Cleveland Friday night. They beat the Cavs. Now, Barnes, be aware, is also in his 5th NBA season. So the fact that he's now getting to this record, and it strikes me as odd that nobody on the Raptors has ever done that before. But a 15-10, 5-5 is nothing to sneeze at, and it speaks to his improving consistency.
Good player. They built the team around him. We'll see how that works out. Let's go over to the National Hockey League, and we'll talk about the Habs, who are in first. They're in first place.
Yeah. Not anything that anybody ever expected, but I don't have my friends from Montreal lording.
Are they a Canadian team, Aaron? Are they a Canadian team? Are we referring to them as a Canadian team?
They're more Canadian than the Leafs are, put it that way. They've probably got more Canadians playing for them than Toronto does.
I don't think they're more Canadian than Toronto.
But at 9-3-0, they're certainly leading the way, and they beat the Senators, who are 6-5-2. Settled for it. At least the Sens managed to get an overtime point out of it in the 4-3 loss to Montreal. They fell behind 2-0. Rallied with 3 unanswered goals to take a 3-2 lead late in the game, but then Demidov scored to force OT, and then No Hook got a goal in OT to give the Habs the 4-3 win. It was one of those.
Yeah. Enough about Montreal. Forget Montreal. Let's move on to the Jets.
Well, the Jets actually managed to stop the Penguins behind Lambert's first NHL goal and Camry's 28 saves. The red hot Penguins had started the season 8-2-2. Good to see the Jets finally put the brakes on that.
Yeah, good for them. Okay, enough about the Jets. Let's go to the Oilers, Blackhawks.
Now, the Blackhawks have had a much better start to the 2025 season than anybody had ever actually anticipated. After losing to Winnipeg by 3 goals on Thursday, there was a feeling that they would be able to bounce back, but unfortunately, they ran into the Oilers and actually managed to end up on the losing end 3-2 in overtime. Connor Bedard is still putting in a great performance. He's proving that he belongs in the league, most definitely. There were some questions after parts of his performance last year, but next up, Chicago is going to be playing Seattle tonight. This will be their 3rd of 6 games on the road, and we'll have to see how that turns out.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Oilers. No, sorry, the Flames.
So Huberdeau got a pair of goals, and the Calgary Flames actually topped the Philadelphia Flyers 2-1 on Sunday. It was a very, very low event game, mainly because both teams are playing their 4th game in 6 nights. Huberdeau managed to break the ice 2 minutes and 15 seconds into the second period. He got his 4th goal of the season at 7:06 of the 3rd when he tipped Mackenzie Weegar's shot past Alexei Kolosov. Dustin Wolf made 17 saves to pick up his 3rd win of the season. and this actually snapped a 3-game losing streak for the Flames.
Canucks.
I tell you, they're banged up. Winnipeg actually managed to stop their 5-game losing skid with a 5-2 win. Marco Rossi got the go-ahead goal in the second, and Vladimir Tarasenko had a goal and 2 assists to help the Wild snap a 5-game losing streak. Vinny Hinostroza and Jonas Brodin padded the lead with goals in the third, and Ryan Hartman had the empty netter. Joel Eriksson Ek had 2 assists, and Philip Gustafsson made 26 saves for the Wild. The problem that we have here is that Vancouver almost seems to have more players on injured reserve and on day-to-day than they do in the lineup.
That's sad.
It sucks.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Leafs finally. Okay, Matthews and Tavares led the Leafs past the Flyers. And then Tanev was stretchered out.
So Matthews got a goal. Tavares had assists on 2 others. The Leafs managed to beat the Flyers 5-2. Unfortunately, they did actually lose. Chris Tanev. He was run into from behind. I wouldn't say it was deliberate contact, but at the same time, Matvei Michkov certainly made no attempt to avoid him, which could potentially have aggravated Tanev's concussion. He'd actually just come off an injury, and this was, I believe, his first game back. Michkov was assessed a minor for interference on the play, and Tanev was actually released this morning from a Philadelphia area hospital, so he's coming back to Toronto. Maple Leafs are beginning a 4-game homestand tonight against Pittsburgh. You can catch that on Amazon Prime. And Philly wrapped up a long homestand on Sunday against Calgary before they head back on the road again.
Camp's on his way out.
It certainly looks that way. They gave him the A with the Marlies, but number 64 was apparently not happier than that with that. He did sign a 4-year, $9.6 million contract with Toronto in the 23-24 season. But I think it's because of that contract that he's currently sitting in the limbo that he's in, with a cap hit of $2.4 million while only generating 5 goals and 13 points last season, which he spent most of it injured, to be fair. He's not exactly been big value for dollar. Now, it's no accident that Sammy Blais got the call over him on the Leafs depth chart because they signed him for just $775,000. But yeah, he's been playing with the Marlies since the start of the season and did not travel with the team this weekend when they went to the States as part of their Royal Agricultural Winter Fair 3-week road trip.
And of course, we've got Mr. Robertson, who's always been considered to be traded. But 2 things happen when you play much better. It makes your team want to keep you, and other teams want to take you.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, in the 3 games that he's played with Matthews on the top line, while Nylander, who was sidelined with a lower body injury, he's got 3 goals and 2 assists. When you're contributing at a clip like that, especially when he contributed during the 5-2 win against the Flyers on Saturday as well, it's one of those things where you're kind of making the team sit up and take notice and reconsider what they're actually going to be doing with you. As it currently stands, he's been taking rotations on the first line. He's still showing as being up there. I believe he'll be starting there tonight with Cowan, Tavares, and Nylander on the second line. Joshua, Nicholas Roy, and Matthias McChelli on the third, and Sammy Blais, Max Domi, and Calle Yarncroke on the fourth line.
And finally, Leafs prospect from Owen Sound, playing some hockey.
Yeah, Harry Nancy was drafted 153rd overall in the 5th round of the 25 draft by the Leafs. His production was below average for a draft-eligible player. He had just 23 points in 67 games. Now, he did play on a rebuilding Owen Sound attack squad, but a lot of people seem surprised by the pickup. Those who didn't like Toronto drafting Nancy are most likely biting their tongues. He's had an incredible start to the season so far. Owen Sound actually scored unanswered goals to rout the Erie Otter by a score of 8-3. Pierce Mbui and Cole Zarowski were outstanding. Nancy matched Mbui's production with 1 goal and 4 assists during this 8-3 win. He's actually making a very strong case for why the Maple Leafs drafted him in the first place. And that's always been one of Toronto's hidden talents, is finding the diamond in the rough.
And they can do that, and good for them. Aaron, this was fun, buddy.
Yes, sir. We'll see you Wednesday, Frank.
Absolutely. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Candid Frank Stanishi, YouTube, 10:30 if you want to follow what we're doing. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next time. Have a great day.